How did people sleep in medieval castles without freezing to death? Tonight, we travel back to a winter night inside a medieval castle. Not the bright castle of banners, feasts, music, and crowded halls, but the castle after dark, when the gates are barred, the fires burn low, and cold air presses softly against the stone. This is a story about winter, but more than that, it is a story about the quiet skill of staying warm in a world without modern heating. In those days, warmth was not something that filled every room at the touch of a button. It had to be made, guarded, carried, and shared. It had to be protected in small ways, through habits that belonged to every evening, closing shutters before the wind rose, feeding the hearth before the last light disappeared, drawing thick curtains around the bed, shaking out wool blankets, laying rushes across the floor, and choosing carefully where to sleep in a building made almost entirely of stone. Before we begin, if you enjoy quiet sleep stories like this, you can subscribe for more calm journeys, peaceful survival stories, and relaxing bedtime narration. And if you happen to come back in the daytime, leave a comment and tell us where you listened from, what time it was for you, and what kind of story you would like to hear next. For now, there is nothing you need to do. Just get comfortable, let the room around you grow quiet, and allow the story to begin. Let one easy breath come in. Let it leave a little more slowly. Let your shoulders soften. Let your hands rest. Let the day loosen its hold. Tonight there is no task for you to complete and no thought you need to follow. You are only listening. You are only drifting through an old winter evening into a castle of stone, smoke, wool, candlelight, and sleep. Imagine the castle standing on a hill in the heart of winter. The sky above it is dark and heavy with snow, and the land around it lies pale beneath the moon. The road below the hill has almost disappeared under drifting white. The fields are frozen hard, the hedges are rimmed with frost, and the bare trees move gently in the wind, their branches black against the snow. From far away, the castle looks strong and silent, its towers rising into the night, its outer walls thick enough to withstand armies, storms, and time. Yet stone has its own kind of cold. It holds winter deep inside itself. It drinks in the chill of the air and gives it back slowly, hour after hour, through floors, walls, passages, stairwells, and chambers. A castle could protect a person from an enemy at the gate, but it did not automatically protect that same person from the long, cold hours before dawn. That protection had to be built every night. The outer gate is closing now. Two men push the great wooden doors together, and the sound rolls through the courtyard like distant thunder. A heavy bar is lowered into place. Iron rings knock against oak. Outside remains outside. Inside, the household begins its long winter night. Snow sweeps along the stones of the courtyard in thin, restless lines. A stable boy guides one final horse into shelter, where the air is warmer with hay, leather, and animal breath. A woman crosses from the kitchen yard with a lantern held low beneath her cloak. Another servant carries a basket of folded linen and wool toward the inner rooms. Somewhere overhead, a shutter bangs once in the wind before someone reaches it and pulls it closed. The castle is preparing for sleep, not all at once, but through many small acts happening in many corners at the same time. Inside the great hall, the evening meal has ended. The long tables have been cleared, and the benches are being moved back toward the walls. The smell of roasted meat, onions, ale, smoke, and damp wool still lingers beneath the high ceiling. A large fire burns in the hearth, though it is no longer fierce. Earlier, it would have thrown bright light across the hall, making cups shine and shadows dance on the beams above. Now it burns lower, deep red and gold, with the last logs settling into themselves. A servant kneels near the hearth and moves the embers with an iron tool, not letting them die too quickly. Fire is precious in winter. It is not only comfort, it is protection. It is light, warmth, cooking, and the heart of the room. You step slowly into the hall and feel how uneven warmth can be in a place like this. Near the hearth, your face and hands would feel the glow almost at once. A few steps away, the air is cooler. Near the walls, the cold is waiting. The hall is large, and a single fire cannot conquer all of it. This is why people live close to warmth at night. They gather near the flame. They sit with cloaks around their shoulders. They turn their boots toward the hearth to dry. They learn which parts of the room hold comfort and which corners belong to winter. In a castle, warmth is not spread evenly. It lives in pockets. It gathers where people have worked to keep it. The floor beneath your feet is not bare stone. Fresh rushes have been scattered across it, mixed with herbs in some places, so that each step gives off a faint scent of grass, earth, and dried leaves. Rushes cannot make the hall truly warm, but they make the floor less harsh. They soften the sound of footsteps and create a thin living layer between the body and the cold ground. In another corner, a dog sleeps close to the hearth, nose tucked near its tail. The animal knows where the warmth is. A page, still young enough to be sleepy before the adults, sits with his back against a bench, wrapped in a rough cloak. His head nods once, then again, as the firelight moves over his face. Along the stone walls hang large tapestries. In daylight, they would show hunts, forests, saints, flowers, animals, and old stories woven in color. At night, in the low firelight, they become softer and darker, like pieces of forest brought indoors. They are beautiful, but beauty is only part of their purpose. The cloth keeps the room from feeling as if the walls are breathing cold directly into the bodies gathered there. It catches a little warmth. It blocks a little draft. It turns a hard wall into something more human. In a castle, even decoration can become part of survival. The people here understand winter in practical ways. They know that a door left open too long can undo the work of a fire. They know that wet wool must be dried before sleep, or it will steal heat from the body. They know that a person who sits too far from the hearth may feel cold long before the night is halfway through. They know that the first step toward warmth is not one dramatic solution, but attention. A hand closing a latch. A cloak pulled higher. A child moved away from a draft. A log added before embers fade. These gestures are so ordinary that no one speaks of them as wisdom, yet they are exactly that. From the great hall, you follow the sound of movement toward the kitchens. The passage between the hall and kitchen is warmer than the stairwells because heat travels here with people, food, and work. The kitchen is still awake. It may be the most alive place in the castle at this hour. The hearths are broad and deep, with coals glowing under blackened iron. Pots hang over slow heat. A cook covers leftover broth so it can be used in the morning. Bread rests beneath cloth. A young servant scrapes a wooden board near a basin of water that is already cooling. Another carries ash in a metal pan, careful not to spill it on the rush-strewn floor. The kitchen warmth is different from the warmth of a private chamber. It is not gentle at first. It is smoky, busy, practical, and full of smell. Fat, herbs, onions, hot iron, bread, wet boots, old wood, and steam. In the depths of winter, this room is a refuge not because it is quiet, but because it is warm from necessary work. The fire here has been burning all day, and the stones around it have taken in more heat than most walls in the castle. Even after the cooking ends, the kitchen holds warmth longer than the passages outside. The people who work here know this, and they linger for a few moments when they can, turning cold hands toward the glow before carrying the last tasks of the night upstairs or out to the yard. One of the cooks banks the fire with care. He does not simply leave it blazing because fire is useful only when it is respected. A careless flame can become danger. A completely dead hearth can make mourning harder, so he covers the embers in a way that lets them breathe slowly beneath ash. This is a quiet agreement with the night. Sleep now, but do not die. In the morning, those hidden embers may help wake the fire again. This matters deeply. A medieval winter morning begins with cold fingers, stiff cloth, and visible breath in the air. Anything that helps the first flame return is valuable. Near the kitchen, a smaller room is being prepared for some of the servants. The beds are simple, the blankets rough, and the space is crowded compared with the private chambers above. Yet crowded rooms have their own kind of warmth. The air is shared. Bodies, breath, wool, and straw make a room less severe. A kitchen maid folds herself under a blanket with the weariness of someone who has stood since before dawn. A boy who carried wood all afternoon pulls his cloak over his feet and turns toward the wall. Someone whispers a final sentence. Someone else answers with a quiet laugh that fades almost at once. No one wastes energy staying awake longer than needed. Winter teaches the value of sleep. In the stable, the horses shift and breathe in their stalls. Their bodies warm the air in a way that stone never could. Hay is piled high and dry. Leather tack hangs on pegs. A cat moves silently along a beam, then curls into a hidden place where heat has gathered. A stable hand sleeps nearby, wrapped in a blanket, used to the sounds of hooves, straw, breathing, and wood creaking in the cold. For him, the stable may be more comfortable than a lonely stone corner elsewhere. Castles are often imagined as places of nobility and towers, but they are also places of animals, hay, work, smoke, food, and people sleeping wherever warmth can be found. Above the hall in the private chambers, other preparations unfold more quietly. A servant opens a wooden chest and lifts out wool blankets that smell faintly of cedar, smoke, and dried lavender. Another checks the shutters at the narrow windows. Medieval windows are not like modern windows. Some are covered with shutters, some with oiled cloth, some with horn, and some with small panes of glass if the household is wealthy enough. Whatever the material, the problem is always the same. Winter finds gaps. It moves through cracks with patient fingers. It slips under doors, around frames, and through poorly closed shutters. So each window is checked before sleep. A latch is tightened. A folded cloth is pushed into a thin opening. A hanging is drawn across the coldest side of the room. The bed is prepared with care. It is not placed flat on the freezing floor because the floor holds the cold more deeply than the air above it. Instead, the bed is raised, sometimes on a wooden frame, sometimes with ropes supporting the mattress. The mattress itself may be filled with straw, wool, feathers, or a mixture of whatever the household can afford. A straw mattress can rustle when a person lies down, but it gives the body some distance from the cold below. Over it come sheets, blankets, sometimes furs, sometimes a coverlet heavy enough to press the body gently into stillness. Around the bed, curtains hang from a frame. When drawn closed, they create a smaller room within the room. Breath, body heat, and the small warmth of the bedding are held inside that enclosed space. The bed becomes a shelter of cloth. This is one of the most important secrets of sleeping in a cold castle. People did not try to warm every stone chamber completely. Often that would have been impossible. Instead, they made smaller warm spaces inside larger cold ones, a place near the hearth, a curtained bed, a corner protected from drafts, a cloak wrapped tightly around the shoulders, a shared sleeping area where bodies helped warm the air. The castle itself might remain cold, but the person inside learned how to create layers of shelter. Stone wall, wooden shutter, hanging cloth, wool blanket, linen sheet, warm breath, sleeping body. Each layer did a little. Together, they could carry someone through the night. You follow the glow of a lantern up a spiral stair. The steps are narrow and worn in the middle from years of feet climbing and descending. The stone is cold beneath every footfall. The stairwell curves upward through the wall, and the air here is colder than in the hall. It smells of damp stone, smoke drifting from lower rooms, and the faint tallow scent of the candle inside the lantern. A servant ahead of you carries a warming pan by its long handle. Inside the covered metal pan are hot embers from the hearth. She will pass it carefully between the sheets before someone sleeps, warming the bed just enough that the first moment beneath the covers does not feel like lying down inside winter itself. The chamber above is not grand in the way people sometimes imagine castles to be. It is practical, shadowed, and alive with small details. A chest stands near the wall. A stool sits beside the bed. A pitcher of water rests near a basin, though by morning the water may be painfully cold, perhaps even filmed with ice in the harshest weather. There is a fireplace, but the room is large enough that its warmth fades quickly near the far corners. The bed, therefore, matters more than the fire. The fire begins the work, the bed completes it. The servant moves the warming pan slowly under the covers, never leaving it in one place too long. The cloth lifts slightly as the pan passes beneath it. A faint smell of warm linen rises into the cold chamber. Another servant draws the bed curtains partway closed, then opens them again to allow the person to enter. The curtains are heavy, and when they move, they make a soft dragging sound along their rings. Their fabric catches the firelight, turning amber at the edges. For a moment, you can imagine how the bed will feel later, once the curtains are fully drawn and the room outside has faded into darkness. It will not be like modern warmth, even then. It will be closer, heavier, more enclosed. A little pocket of human heat protected from the castle's endless stone. The lord and lady of the castle may sleep in a chamber with more textiles than most. A rug near the bed, wall hangings that move faintly when the air shifts, a large canopy overhead, a chest filled with linen, perhaps fur laid over the blankets in the coldest months. These things show status, certainly, but status and comfort are closely joined here. The wealthiest people can place more layers between themselves and winter, more fabric, more firewood, more servants to prepare the room, more candles, more dry bedding, more choices. Yet even in such a chamber, the cold is never entirely absent. It waits beyond the firelight. It rests in the stones. It reminds everyone that the night is older and stronger than any household. A maid places a folded garment near the foot of the bed, something warm to reach for in the morning. Another sets a candle safely where it can be found without fumbling in the dark. The fire is not allowed to burn too violently before sleep. A roaring fire can be dangerous, and wood is not to be wasted. Instead, it is arranged to last, to hold a steady glow, to give the room some warmth without filling it with sparks or smoke. The goal is not heat as we know it now. The goal is endurance. Enough warmth to fall asleep. Enough embers to keep the chill from becoming cruel. Enough light to make the room feel inhabited. Outside the window, snow taps against the shutter. The sound is small, almost like dry fingers brushing wood. The wind moves around the tower and hums briefly in a gap somewhere far off. The chamber responds with its own small sounds. A log shifting, a candle guttering, fabric settling, the faint creak of the bed frame. In modern life, we often imagine silence as emptiness, but an old castle at night is full of small voices. Wood, stone, fire, wind, cloth, sleeping animals, distant footsteps. Each sound is part of the shelter. Now imagine another part of the castle, a chamber belonging not to nobles but to a household officer, a clerk, or perhaps a guest. The room is smaller and less richly decorated, but in winter this may be an advantage. A small room can be easier to warm than a grand one. The fireplace is modest, but it works. A single wall hanging covers the stone nearest the bed. The mattress is not luxurious, yet it is raised and dry. A cloak hangs from a peg. A pair of boots rests on its side near the hearth. A wooden shutter is fastened tightly, and a rolled cloth blocks the draught beneath the door. This room does not need to impress anyone. It only needs to keep a sleeper alive and reasonably warm until morning. The guest who sleeps here has learned to undress quickly in winter. There is no standing about in the cold. Outer garments come off, but a linen shift remains, perhaps with a wool cap for the head. People understood very well that the head and neck must be protected when the air is cold. A cap worn at night was not odd or childish. It was practical. The sleeper slides beneath the covers, pulls the blanket close, and waits through that first small trial when the bed is not yet fully warm. The body gives heat to the bedding gives it back. After a few minutes, the cold sheets become less startling. The breath deepens. The room fades. This moment, repeated across many rooms, is one of the most human scenes in the castle. Different ranks, different duties, different bedding, different levels of comfort. Yet all share the same winter truth. At night, the body wants warmth. It wants safety. It wants darkness without threat and enough softness to let go. Whether in a curtained noble bed or under a rough cloak near the hall fire, sleep depends on the same old promise. You can stop now. The night will hold. In a nursery chamber, the cold is answered with closeness. Children are tucked under blankets, sometimes sharing a bed or sleeping near a caregiver. A small fire has warmed the room earlier, and the shutters are closed before the youngest become too sleepy. A nurse feels the bedding with her hand, checking for dampness, because damp is the enemy of warmth. She adjusts the blanket near a child's shoulder and pulls it up around the neck. The child mumbles something, already half inside a dream. Outside, snow moves against the walls. Inside, breath warms the space beneath the covers. In another room, an older woman sits for a while near a brazier, warming her hands before sleep. Her fingers ache more in winter. She knows this season deeply. She has lived through many winters in stone buildings, timber houses, drafty chambers, and smoky halls. She does not expect comfort to be effortless. She keeps a small wool wrap near the bed. She knows how to tuck it around her feet if she wakes before dawn. She knows which side of the bed is colder. She knows not to let the fire die too early on a night when the wind comes from the north. Her knowledge is quiet, lived in the body rather than spoken aloud. The castle is also full of people who sleep lightly because others depend on them. A guard in the gatehouse wraps himself in a cloak during the hours between rounds. The gatehouse is bitter, but he has a brazier and the stone walls protect him from the worst of the wind. He warms his hands, listens, then stands again before sleep can take him too deeply. His work is not comfort. His work is watchfulness. Even so, he has his own methods of enduring the cold. He shifts his weight. He keeps his cloak closed. He drinks something warm if he can. He stands where the wall blocks the draft. Every person in the castle has a relationship with winter shaped by duty. A watchman walks along the inner wall with a lantern and a hood pulled low. His breath shows faintly in the air. He pauses near a narrow opening and looks out over the snowy land. The fields are pale. The road is empty. The forest edge is a dark line beneath the moon. In the distance, perhaps, a wolf calls once, but far away, beyond the frozen fields. The watchman listens, then continues. His boots touch the stone with slow, careful steps. He knows the cold will find him if he stands too long in one place. Movement is warmth too. Below in the great hall, the last conversations have ended. A few people sleep near the remains of the fire. Travelers, retainers, lower servants, or boys not yet given a better place. They arrange themselves in cloaks and blankets, choosing spots where the floor is thickest with rushes and the draft is least sharp. They know not to lie too close to the hearth, where sparks may jump. They know not to lie near the main door, where the cold enters each time someone passes. They know that another body nearby can mean a little more warmth. The hall, which by day is public and busy, becomes at night a landscape of sleepers, shadows, embers, and quiet breathing. The fire in the hall has changed now. It is no longer the bright center of conversation. It has become a lower, deeper presence, an orange bed of heat beneath blackened wood. The dogs have moved closer. A servant who must rise before dawn lies not far away, wrapped in his cloak, one arm under his head. His boots remain near him because a person may need to move quickly in a castle, even at night. But his face has softened in sleep. The day's labor has left him, at least for a while. His breathing joins the breathing of the room. Above him the household settles into layered darkness. Doors close. Candles are pinched out. Fabric stills. Fires drop. The castle becomes less a building of activity and more a great stone shell holding many small nests of warmth. In one room, warmth is held by curtains. In another, by a shared bed. In another, by a fire that has been carefully banked. In another, by a cloak and straw mattress near the kitchen wall. None of these are perfect, but together they explain how people slept. They slept by adapting. They slept by narrowing the space. They slept by knowing that comfort in winter must be prepared before the deepest cold arrives. The idea of freezing in a castle often comes from imagining stone rooms with no softness, no fire, no textiles, no habits, no human skill. But medieval people did not simply lie down on bare stone and hope for the best. They lived in a world where textiles mattered enormously. Cloth was warmth, wealth, privacy, comfort, and survival. A heavy hanging on a wall could change the feeling of a room. A curtain around a bed could make a night possible. A good wool blanket could be more valuable than many decorative objects. Straw, rushes, feathers, fur, linen, wool, and wood all worked together against the cold. And firewood mattered as much as cloth. Somewhere outside the main rooms, in a woodshed or covered space, logs have been stacked for winter. Each piece of wood represents labor, cutting, splitting, hauling, drying, storing. The fire in a chamber is not just a flame. It is a chain of work stretching back through the day, through the season, perhaps through many hands. A castle needs constant fuel. The larger the household, the greater the need. Warmth comes from the forest, from axes, from carts, from backs bent under bundles of wood, from someone remembering to bring in more before snow thickens. As the night grows deeper, the castle becomes colder at its edges. The outer passages chill first. Stairwells become uncomfortable. A corridor near the north wall holds a narrow draft that moves along the floor like water. The chapel is very cold now, its stone floor pale in moonlight. The storerooms are colder still, but the sleeping areas remain protected by layers and habit. In the chambers where fires have burned, some heat remains trapped in the walls and furnishings. In beds where curtains are drawn, bodies warm the air inside. In crowded rooms, shared breath takes the sharpest edge from the cold. The castle is not warm everywhere, but it does not need to be. It only needs to keep each sleeper within a survivable circle. Let your own breath slow now just a little, not because you must force yourself to relax, but because the story itself is moving deeper into night. The busy rooms are quieting. The last preparations are done. The doors are closed. The bedding is arranged. The fire has become embers. The castle is entering that hour when there are fewer footsteps, fewer voices, and less reason for the mind to stay alert. Imagine again the curtained bed in the upper chamber. The person inside has already passed through the first chill of lying down. The linen has warmed. The blankets have settled. The bed curtains have made the space smaller and closer. Beyond the fabric, the room is dim. Beyond the room, the corridor is cold. Beyond the corridor, the tower wall faces the winter night. Beyond the wall, snow falls without hurry. But inside the bed, the warmth is enough. This is perhaps the most important word in the whole story. Enough. Not perfect warmth, not summer indoors, not modern comfort spread evenly from floor to ceiling. Enough warmth, enough shelter, enough fire, enough cloth, enough closeness. Enough preparation to let the body stop shivering and begin to sleep. Human beings have slept in many kinds of places through history. On ships, in huts, in caves, in tents, in farmhouses, in castles, in deserts, in forests, in snowbound villages. Again and again, sleep comes when the body believes the night has been made safe enough. In the castle, sleep is not separate from the materials of daily life. The wool came from sheep, the feathers from birds, the straw from fields, the wood from forests, the linen from flax, the rushes from wet ground, the fire from labor, the bed from carpenters, the curtains from weavers. The warmth of the chamber is the work of many lives gathered into one quiet night. And now, as the snow falls beyond the walls, all that work becomes rest. There is a small chamber near the solar where a servant checks one final time on the fire. She enters quietly, careful not to wake the person sleeping inside the curtained bed. She sees the glow in the hearth and judges it with experienced eyes. Enough for the night. She moves a little ash with the iron tool and places the screen so sparks cannot leap. Her own hands are rough from work, and the air bites at her fingers when she leaves the room. She closes the door behind her slowly. A door closed gently preserves both sleep and warmth. Down the corridor. She pulls her shawl closer and walks toward the servants' stairs. She passes a narrow window where moonlight lies on the stone. Outside, the snow has thickened. The courtyard below is soft white except where footsteps have crossed it. The well is covered. The stable roof is edged with frost. The chapel bell is silent. For a moment she pauses, listening to the old building around her. It creaks, breathes, settles, and holds. Then she continues down. In a castle, warmth has direction. Heat rises from hearths and kitchens. Cold falls from windows, floors, and walls. People learn these currents the way sailors learn wind. A bed is moved not only for beauty but for comfort. A chair is placed where the back is protected. A screen is used to block the worst draft from a fire. Curtains are drawn not simply because the room looks better, but because air moves less when cloth interrupts it. Much of surviving winter is understanding invisible movement. Where air slips, where heat gathers, where damp collects, where the body loses warmth too quickly. Snow continues outside. It gathers on the roofs of the towers and along the ledges of narrow windows. It softens the sound of the world beyond the walls. The road to the village disappears further beneath white. In the village below, people sleep in timber houses with thatched roofs, gathered around smaller hearths, often with animals close by, with smoke curling through roof openings or chimneys. Their world is different from the castle, but the principles are similar. Fire, cloth, straw, shared space, closed doors. Dry bedding, warm food. Human beings, through winter after winter, become students of warmth. Back inside the castle, a child wakes briefly in the dark. Not fully, only enough to feel the weight of the blanket and the presence of another body nearby. The room is dim. The fire has lowered. A shutter creaks once in the wind. The child turns slightly and is tucked closer by a half-sleeping arm. That is enough. The child sinks again beneath the blanket, and the moment passes. Not every interruption in the night becomes wakefulness. Sometimes the body checks the world and finds it safe enough to return. The old woman near the brazier also wakes once, as older bodies often do in the coldest hours. She reaches for the wrap beside her without opening her eyes fully. Her hand knows where it is. She pulls it around her shoulders and settles again. The brazier gives off only a little heat now, but the blanket and habit do the rest. She has slept through many winters. Her body knows how to conserve warmth. Her breathing steadies. The room grows quiet again. The watchman on the wall passes the same point for the third time. His lantern flame leans whenever the wind finds it. He looks once toward the horizon. There is no movement beyond snow and trees. He descends briefly to warm himself, then returns. For those asleep inside, his watch is part of their safety. The castle allows many people to rest because a few remain awake. That, too, is part of how a winter night is survived. Warmth is physical, but safety is communal. Someone tends the fire. Someone bars the gate. Someone checks the animals. Someone listens in the dark. As the hours pass, the cold outside becomes sharper. This is often how winter behaves. Evening is cold, but the deep night can be colder still. The stones of the castle continue giving back the chill they have stored. Water in a forgotten corner may stiffen. Frost may form along a window edge. A metal latch may be unpleasant to touch with bare fingers. Yet beneath the bed curtains, under wool and linen, bodies keep their warmth. The bedding that seemed heavy at first now feels necessary, even comforting. Weight becomes reassurance. The body rests more deeply when it no longer has to guard itself against the air. Let yourself imagine that weight now. Not a pressure that traps you, but a heaviness that tells the muscles they can stop working. A wool blanket lying across the body, a cloak folded near the feet, the mattress lifting you away from the cold floor, the bed curtains forming a soft boundary, your hands resting, your jaw quiet, your shoulders no longer lifted against the day. The cold is outside the layers. You are inside them. The story of sleeping in a castle is also a story about accepting the season. Modern comfort often tries to erase weather entirely. But in the medieval castle, winter remains present. You hear it at the shutter. You feel it in the first touch of the floor. You smell it in damp wool drying by the hearth. You see it in the way people gather near fire, in the way a servant closes a door quickly, in the way a child is wrapped before crossing a passage. Winter is not removed. It is negotiated with. It is kept at the edge of life, close enough to respect, far enough to survive. This gives the night a certain depth. The warmth inside feels meaningful because the cold outside is real. The bed feels safer because the stone floor is unforgiving. The fire feels more beautiful because darkness is not far away. A cup of warm drink matters because the air beyond the hearth is raw. The castle, for all its strength, teaches humility. Thick walls can keep out snow and wind, but they cannot create comfort by themselves. Comfort comes from human care added to stone. Near the hall, one of the dogs dreams. Its paws move faintly in sleep. A boy nearby shifts and pulls his cloak higher. The last ember drops inside the hearth with a soft collapse. Sparks rise briefly, then disappear. No one wakes. The hall has entered its deepest quiet. The tapestries hang motionless. The rushes on the floor are dark and still. The long tables are only shapes against the walls. In the kitchen, the banked coals continue their hidden glow. The pots are still. The boards have dried. The air remains warmer than the corridors, though cooler than before. A cat opens one eye, then closes it again. In the stable, a horse exhales, and steam fades above the straw. In the chapel, moonlight rests on stone. In the upper chamber, the bed curtains do their silent work. You can see now how the entire castle becomes a series of nested protections. The hill lifts it above the land. The outer wall holds the courtyard. The inner doors hold the hall. The chamber walls hold the room. The bed curtains hold the bed. The blankets hold the body. And the body holds its own warmth, steady and living, through the darkest part of the night. Nothing in this arrangement is accidental. It may look simple, but every layer has purpose. The thick wall slows the wind. The shutter blocks the opening. The tapestry softens the stone. The fire warms the air. The curtain traps that warmth. The mattress lifts the sleeper. The blanket prevents heat from leaving too quickly. The cap protects the head. The shared room reduces the chill. Even the timing matters. Warm the bed too early and the heat is gone. Warm it just before sleep and the body receives it. Bank the fire poorly and morning begins in hardship. Bank it well and the first flame returns. And yet for the people living through this night, these things are not studied as curiosities. They are life. No one pauses to marvel that they have survived without radiators, thermostats, sealed windows, and electric blankets. They simply do what must be done because winter has always required preparation. Their world is less insulated from nature but also more attentive to it. They know the smell of coming snow. They know the sound of a bad draft. They know whether wood is dry by touch and weight. They know which blanket is best for the coldest nights. They know when the sky will freeze hard before morning. The night continues. Slowly the castle moves toward the hour before dawn, the coldest and quietest time. This is when fires are lowest, bodies are deepest in sleep, and the world outside seems paused beneath ice. Even the wind may soften for a while. Snow settles silently. The fields are untouched. The road is gone under white. The towers stand dark against the sky. Inside the curtained bed, the sleeper turns once and then settles again. The movement releases a little warmth, then the blankets close around the body. Breath returns to its slow rhythm. The fire beyond the curtains is almost ash now, but the bed still holds enough heat. The walls are cold. The floor is cold. The basin water is cold. But the sleeper is not lying on the floor, not exposed to the room, not uncovered beneath the shutter. The sleeper is wrapped in the result of all the evening's care. Let that thought become part of the relaxation now. The work has already been done. The shutters have already been closed. The blankets have already been laid. The fire has already been tended. The bed has already been warmed. The curtains have already been drawn. There is no need to rise and check. There is no need to plan the morning. For now, the body can rest inside the preparation. Your breath comes in. Your breath leaves. The old castle breathes around you in stone and wood and ember. Snow falls beyond the walls. The night keeps moving but slowly. No hurry. No sudden change. Only winter, shelter, and time. When morning comes, it will come pale and cold. Someone will rise before the others and stir the kitchen fire from the banked coals. Someone will carry water stiff-fingered from a covered place. Someone will open a shutter and find snow piled along the ledge. The hall fire will be encouraged back to life. Bread will be warmed. Animals will be fed. The castle will wake into labor. But that is not yet. Morning belongs to another part of the story. This hour belongs to sleep. So we remain inside the night. Inside the chamber, inside the curtains, inside the warmth that people made with their hands. The firelight is almost gone now, only a muted redness beyond the bed. The fabric of the curtains is dark. The blankets are heavy. The pillow is cool at the edge, warm beneath the cheek. The air inside the bed is close and still. If a thought comes, let it stay beyond the curtain. If a memory rises, let it pass down the corridor and fade. There is no need to open the door to every thought, no need to walk every passage of the mind. Tonight, you can remain where it is warm. The castle holds its many sleepers, the child in the nursery, the old woman beneath her wrap, the servant near the kitchen warmth, the boy by the hall fire, the stable hand close to the horses, the lord and lady behind heavy curtains, the guest in the small chamber, the guard between waking and watchfulness. Each person has found a place within the winter structure of the night. Each has, in some way, made a small answer to the cold. The snow outside does not stop, but it becomes less important. The wind touches the walls but cannot reach the center of the bed. The stone remains cold, but not everything made of stone is hostile. The same walls that hold the chill also block the storm. The same castle that feels severe by day becomes protective by night. It stands around the sleepers, taking the weather on its outer face, allowing the inner rooms to keep their fragile warmth. Your body can soften further now. Let the forehead smooth. Let the eyes rest. Let the tongue rest. Let the jaw loosen. Let the shoulders drop away from the ears. Let the hands be quiet. Let the ribs move gently with the breath. Let the legs grow heavier as though the wool blanket has persuaded them to stop holding on. There is nothing to brace against here. The cold is outside the layers. The bed holds warmth. The curtains hold shadow. The blankets hold the body. The room holds the bed. The castle holds the room. The hill holds the castle. The snow holds the world in quiet. Everything rests inside something larger. Everything is held. Let the image become softer now. The edges of the bed blur. The firelight becomes only a faint glow. The sound of wind becomes distant. The snow becomes a slow white silence beyond the walls. The castle, once large and strong and full of passages, becomes only a feeling. Shelter in winter, warmth inside stone, sleep beneath heavy cloth. There is nothing new to learn now. No more rooms to visit, no more preparations to make. The story has reached its resting place. The fire is banked. The shutters are closed. The bed is warm. The night can continue on its own. Breathe in gently. Breathe out slowly. Let the next breath come when it comes. Let it leave when it leaves. No effort, no schedule, no need to stay awake. The snow falls beyond the castle. The fire glows beneath ash. The stone walls stand in the dark. The bed curtains hang still. The blankets are warm. Your body is heavy. Your thoughts are distant. The night is safe enough for sleep. Rest now in the old castle. Rest beneath wool and linen. Rest while winter moves softly around the walls. Rest while the embers keep their small red light. Rest while the world grows quiet under snow. Sleep can come slowly. It does not need to be chased. It can arrive like warmth beneath a blanket, like firelight fading behind closed curtains, like snow covering the road outside the gate. The castle is quiet, the chamber is dark, the bed is warm, the cold is outside, you are inside, there is nothing else to follow. Sleep now, sleep gently, sleep deeply. Let the winter night hold itself beyond the walls, and let the small warm space around you carry you into rest.